Hi, everyone. I hope you are having a beautiful new year and spent time with people you loved or time in reflection or whatever it is. And if it's a hard new year for you, I hope that this day can be a good time for you to connect with others, look inward, and see how you want to get your life on the right track. So, I've been thinking a lot about the relationship between spirituality and my quest to find a romantic life partner. And my thoughts began today with this idea of wanting to be the romantic heroine. When you see all of these kind of fairy tales, Cinderella, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, there's always this beautiful princess who is the star of the story. And when I was younger, I used to be a child actress, and I was the child star. There wasn't any kind of romantic interest in those. But then as I grew older and I started pursuing my acting career, I seemed to always be cast as the character actress. And what I wanted to play was the female lead, the ingenue. And it was really frustrating to me that I seemed to always be cast in the funny girl role. It just felt not as attractive as being the romantic heroine. And I really wanted to be the romantic heroine, kind of a joke on me. And yeah, so it just got me thinking about how we have these stories of romance with and these ideas of fairy tales with a happy ending are more recent. The grim fairy tales, I mean, to be honest, I haven't done a ton of research on happy fairy tale endings, but it seems like in the past a lot of these tales are a lot more gruesome and depressing. And then now with Disney, the tales have become much more happy, and they're always about a princess who finds her prince. It's never really about a prince who finds his princess. And when all the tales, Disney is mostly about girls. But then usually when it's about a boy, I mean, maybe this slightly Simba and the Lion King, I don't know. But essentially, I mean, I guess maybe Aladdin. All right, I stand correcting myself. I sit correcting myself. But most of the fairy tales, Beauty and the Beast, it's not about the beast looking for beauty. Cinderella is not about the prince, it's about Cinderella. And so I want to be the star. I want to be the romantic heroine. And so that kind of got me thinking about what archetype I'm playing in my daily life. Just, as I walk to the coffee shop, I think that, we all have these masks that we wear. And I think that I'm kind of in this desire to date, I've been kind of wanting to be like, can't think of a better word to describe it, but the seductress or the whore with the heart of gold, just the sexy lady. But when you think about archetypes like Cinderella or Snow White or Sleeping Beauty, they're not that. And so I wondered what it would be like to walk through life just feeling this energy of the romantic heroine. And I really liked that idea. But then that also got me thinking back about the cultural conditioning of fairy tales and if this is somehow negative that I grew up on all of these stories, basically making me feel like my life was fulfilled when I found my prince. And, as soon as I started talking to therapists and group therapy, people who were married had said, you're going to be sorely disappointed if you get married. This is no such thing as a soulmate. And yet I really held on a long time to this idea of finding my true love, into the fact where it became almost embarrassing. At 40, really, I still believed that there was such a thing as a soulmate. Who knows, maybe I'll still be surprised by that. And, so I do believe that, yes, okay, so there's this romance that's only in the last couple hundred years, the idea of the chivalrous knight. It's cultural conditioning. And yet I think about, we have these different dimensions. We have a spiritual dimension. We have these stories that live in us, these mystical stories that shape our behavior and help us define our lives. And there's a beauty in playing out these stories. I mean, Christmas is one of my most favorite times of the year. I know it's painful for some people, but and New Year's and as I was during this period, people have been reaching out to me and telling me that they love me, and it's been an opportunity for me to reach out to people and tell them that I love them and how much I appreciate them, and just kind of to relax and reset and enjoy each other in a way that we might not do in our daily lives. There's a lovely coffee shop I like to go to, and I saw the owner and his wife because they were there, because everyone who goes to the coffee shop was celebrating New Year's Eve. And it just felt, it was such the right moment to go over them and tell them how much I appreciate their community and how much it shapes my life. And the wife gave me a hug and the husband shook my hand, and it just felt really fun and connected. And my besties and I took the opportunity to do this day to primp. So these cultures and these traditions, they do have their power and their beauty. And I think that romance has something similar. I mean, there's a real elegance and beauty, at least for me, and it doesn't resonate with everybody, but to this dance of romantic love. And so, we don't just want all facts and science. These stories shape us in ways that we cannot even imagine, in both positive and negative ways. So I don't think it's as simple as saying just throw away your fairy tales. I also was so drawn to musicals as a child. Julie Andrews, Judy Garland, Gene Kelly, Fred Astaire, all of these happy ending romances. And most spiritual teachers kind of laugh, you don't see what happens after the romantic fairy tale marriage. And that's true. And yet, why was I so drawn to those? And is there, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not saying, I could be completely 100% disillusioned, but I don't know that isn't of interest, that people find them so compelling that they're buying this myth en masse. And, and everybody knows that marriage isn't always this romantic fairy tale. People aren't idiots. And yet we continue to consume it because somehow it speaks to a deep part of ourselves. So yesterday I was thinking a lot about marriage, and I was kind of in a space. I was talking to my friends. It goes to the video where I was thinking, like, what is the point of marriage? Okay, companionship. I mean, I have that with my friends. Is it about, sharing laughter? I also have that with my friends. Is it just about sex? Well, I can have casual sexual relationships, or I can have that with someone I'm not married to. I can pleasure myself. Um, giving some material for our explicit rating on Apple Podcasts again. I can find that in other areas. Doesn't have to be through a single partner. And, my community brings so much support. Even I was reading about Logan Uri, and she was saying, you want to pick a partner who's really, who can just take over if you collapse. And I know that I have friends who can do that for me, unfortunately. I mean, I'm scared about that sometimes, honestly, as a single person, but I also know that people are in marriages where the person doesn't necessarily take over for them when they need it. In her case, it was when she had a child and there were some medical issues and her husband just started running the ship. I mean, it's so amazing if you can find someone like that. And I do want to be intentional about the kind of partner I attract in that regard. And I guess with my friends, I feel like I've been very lucky in who I've attracted into my life. I've gone through stages of friendship where I feel like now I'm in this sweet spot of friendship. When I was younger, I had less of an understanding of who I was, what I wanted, and not the self-confidence I needed to know that I could be selective about my friends, that I had something wonderful to offer and could surround myself with wonderful people. I was more desperate for anyone who liked me, and that's not so much the case anymore. So, yeah, so I don't it's not like I had to envision the perfect friend and then attract them. They just came in. And with a partner, I think the reason I, in particular, need to be more intentional about it is because I have such a difficult, I don't have a model of that growing up and I guess, or it's not even that. I mean, that's a big part of it, but that part of me psychologically is broken and distorted more than my relationship to friends. I had a very healthy, loving relationship with my mom. We certainly had our fights. I had my periods of distance. Really, I was a nasty teen. And then in my 20s, kind of distant, and 30s, we started like coming close again. But, that relationship is based in love. With father, I just have nothing. And so I think part of the reason I do need to be more intentional about thinking about what kind of men I want to bring into my life is just because I have no model for it. I don't even have a lot of male friends, which this, I feel like this could be a good part of my thing to add to my dating strategy, is to start making more male friends. Even it's been nice kind of starting to talk to some of these older married men. I've been kind of teasing them, asking, I mean, not even teasing. I've really been looking. I think I have at least three people, three men who are married who I just think are great guys who have approached and said, I'm looking for a partner. Can you think of someone who you could introduce to me? Yesterday I was sitting with one of my friends at the coffee shop and his other friend came in and but I just like joked about it a little bit. While his friend was there, I said, "This guy's gonna find me a husband," and then he kind of got geared up, like, "Hey, do you know anybody?" And then they both said, "Hey, between the two of us, we can definitely find you one." So that was nice. It was fun, right? So I think connecting with other men is really great, and surrounding myself with other marriages. Okay, so where were we? So we started off with the difference between spiritual fulfillment and romantic relationships, which is that I think that I have been looking for a partner to fulfill me. And I know that's not what's going to fulfill me. I know there's something so much greater and it's not necessarily healthy for one person to meet your needs in that way. So that's not what I'm looking for anymore. There's also the aspect of social validation, which I think I can't ever deny will always be a part of this. I mean, when I say I'm dating someone, everybody perks up. All my friends, everybody wants to hear the gossip and everyone is happy for you when you find love. I mean, sometimes I feel jealous when I'm really curious to see where my jealousy takes me because sometimes when I see couples, like I saw this short video of a man watching his bride come down the aisle and she was so gorgeous and she had written this whole song for him and the recording was playing. He'd never heard him before. He was crying. He was so handsome. She was so beautiful. And I didn't feel happy for them. I felt jealous. I felt icky. And that's not the kind of energy that I want to put out. And firework just went off. And so I try to pay close attention to my jealousy. I don't want to put that kind of negative energy on someone else, but I do think it can be a pointer for me. Instead of something healthy, why am I putting out something negative? Is jealousy an indication of where I want to go? An indication of something in me that needs to be healed? So social acceptance. Like if I'm walking down the wedding aisle, everyone will say like, you made it, Manisha, you got it. And everyone will accept me. I'll be part of the mom group. I'll be part of the married people group. I won't be the outcast single person. But society has changed a lot, and my need for that type of social validation has shifted a lot. I mean, we all know about that article and posted in Cosmopolitan or Vogue about having a boyfriend is embarrassing. I think that's pushing it too far, but it does show how the culture has changed and it's a lot more socially acceptable to be a single woman now than it was before. So, and that's great. But so that's a piece of social validation, the cultural conditioning, the stories that live within me. And then I was feeling yesterday something very profound. So I was walking around, I'm a woman. And there's all types of relationship to gender and genders, really. I mean, people are born intersex, they're born with female anatomy and feel like a man, born with male, feel like a woman. There's all types of things mixed in with that. There are people who don't connect with having a gender at all or having more than one gender. And where I lay on all of this is you be you as long as you don't hurt anybody else. For me, I've always felt very luckily, because it's hard still in the society if you don't, but luckily for me, I have felt very much my gender. I like being a woman. I feel very much a woman, even though I know who I am ultimately is so much bigger than gender. And there's something about here I am a female archetype, and I can't really experience what it's like to be a male archetype. I don't have a sense of that. I have had some weird kind of reincarnation memories of being a man. But there is, when we talk about marriage and soulmates, there's something really profound and beautiful about finding a complement with an E. Like through, it goes back to the Bible and woman and man split in two, or the rib, and like there's all kinds of stories about genders forming, but there is this cultural mythology, mystical energy around the man and the woman uniting and becoming one, and me getting this lived experience of wholeness. And there's this part of that experience too, which is just, okay, so there's the man and I'm woman, and having that nurturing male energy is so delicious for me. I mean, I have to say, I don't know, for some reason I get a crush on all my dentists. Like, there's something about a man. I think I'm the only person, probably the 0.001%, who just loves going to the dentist, because just even though they're breaking my mouth open with these dental surgery, this is like a man nurturing me, and it feels so good. I mean, to be honest, even like I went to this exercise class and it was a woman, but she had this kind of male energy. This is having twit, and I was like kind of turned on. It was like very much, you're helping me get my body in shape, and you're nurturing me with this kind of very masculine energy. There's something that felt really nice about that. So it is a mix because, there are certain things like this desire for a man to provide for you. I think that's very, very deep seated in women. And I heard something interesting, which was when you have this terror about not finding a date or a mate, there is this real, it's true that women couldn't survive. Like, if you didn't find a husband, you didn't have any financial needs of support. That's terrifying. And now women can provide for themselves. So it is lovely when a man pays for you on a date, or, a man has money. And that goes back into our collective psyche, past generations, and that terror of, oh my gosh, if I don't get married, I won't have enough money. Money and love always seem to be very prominent for me as issues, and I think they're very intertwined. When I was in Al Anon, one of my mentors, I guess, said to me, he always tells young men, finance before romance. And I thought that was true for me as well. I mean, he said it to me because it was relevant to me. And I did find when my finances started to get in order, my love life improved considerably. It's better not to be looking for that from a man. And of course, nice when it happens. But when one person is doing well financially and another is struggling, it really can create a tension. But this year, I really want to bring in a lot of financial abundance into my life, just to give myself that freedom and ease. And I like giving gifts to my friends and dolling myself up and all of that good stuff. So we have these layers of the spiritual, these, stories that have been passed down even through our DNA and generations, the stories that I was raised on, and this that I very much choose. I mean, my mom was not forcing the musicals onto me. I was the one who wanted to watch all the Shirley Temple movies and then watch all the Judy Garland, Julie Andrews musicals. I loved fairy tales. I had a real fan. Even when I was 13, I really wanted a boyfriend. It seemed like something so wonderful. And so when you start going down a spiritual path, or if you go to church or a Zendo or mosque or any kind of religion or spiritual practice, you start to see that there's something so much greater than yourself or what a partner can give to you. So there's this distinction between self-reliance. Like I'm a woman, I don't need a man to take care of me, I can take care of myself. Yes, that's important psychological work. But then there's even a greater awareness where you realize you're powerless and you're part of an interdependent, interconnected community. And there are forces at work that are mysterious and more powerful than you. I mean, I don't know if anyone is listening has experienced the power of a prayer or had a deep spiritual awakening where they just had a sense of exactly things are so basic or things are so big, or experienced, doing a manifesting or changing the mindset and watching the world change around you. Remember, I was meditating the other day. I woke up really sad and gloomy, and then I had insight, and that moment the sun just went out. I think it's just so beautiful when nature can reflect you as you're processing things. So if any of you had that spiritual experience, and I feel like I remember one time I was meditating a lot, And I connected with this really deep sense that love is something that is existing between every single being. And there are people where the dynamic is easier, like my best friends, and I have so much warmth in them for my heart. But actually, every single person, whether I like them or not, every tree, every plant, even this couch, the love is just there. It's like this texture that just exists, and we can cover it up and be resistant and not tune into it. With some people, it's easier to tune in than others, but it's there. It's the connections between us. So love is not something of, I fall in love with you, you fall in love with me. That's kind of more hormones, I think. But then there might be another layer of this kind of special personal love that I can't kind of even be tangible. I mean, my mom is a very awake person, and I asked her if she still had a preferential love for me, and she said absolutely. So she's in this state of oneness and interconnectedness, but she also has a special spot for her daughter, special place for her daughter in her heart. So I guess these meanderings are leading me. I guess these meanderings are more around why do I want someone? And I think there are 2 points of frustration for me. One is that it's so hard to understand something if you haven't experienced it. So I really wish, like, if I had fallen in love with my 20s and had a marriage, then I would have experienced, okay, this is not, maybe I would have gotten frustrated and thought, oh my gosh, I want something, so there's something so much bigger than this. And then I could have just been done with that craving. Ugh. And then there's another part of me that wants to control things. Like, I was such a good student and I always got A's in school, except, I mean, in middle school, I was really terrible and I never finished my assignments. But in college, it was really important to me, always get A's, high school. And I had this great system for getting A's. It was like, you work hard, you have a great relationship with your teacher, and you get an A. And then as I started to become an entrepreneur, it just, everything I did, like I would read all the books and systems and everything, and I couldn't seem to control the outcomes of things in the way that I hoped. And I've seen many hugely successful tech entrepreneurs, just some of the most successful companies in the world, try to build their second startup using all of their systems knowledge, and it just doesn't work. So there's these really mysterious forces at play. You can change your mindset, you can be strategic, but then, and I don't know that that's necessarily up to chance either. Sometimes the money just starts flowing in when you change your point of view, your orientation. And I felt like I want to control spiritual forces. Like, I want to learn exactly how to manifest love, and then I'm going to teach that to other women, and then they will also be able to move forward and find what they want. So, like, there's a part of me that has to let it go of the control, but then I'm also really afraid of myself. Because if I don't hold myself accountable, then maybe I won't learn what I need to learn, or maybe I'll be depriving myself from some incredible, beautiful, great love. And to be honest, a lot of times, if I hadn't gone out to New Year's Eve 3 years ago, I wouldn't have met the best friends of my life. So you do have to enter into these channels that allow beautiful things to happen to you. But in terms of soulmates, what I have to remember is that my idea of soulmates was that, soulmates are naturally attracted to each other and they fall in love and they need each other. And that's that. And so if that was a real concept, I would have met my soulmate in my 20s. It wouldn't be something that I had to put so much work into. So that kind of kills the theory. And then I thought I met the love of my life. And I was so obsessed trying to figure out, is he my soulmate or not? And that didn't work out. And it wasn't because we didn't love each other very much. It wasn't because our meeting wasn't absolutely magical and mystical in every single way and all these beautiful things didn't align. They all did. It's just that he had an addiction and that couldn't make it work for him or for me. And a part of him fell out of love with me, and it wouldn't have been healthy for me or for the kind of the possibility of all that I could contribute to this beautiful fabric to be if I had stayed with him. And so that helped dispel my belief in soulmates, but then also kind of, I don't want to be cynical either. You can go to the opposite extreme and say there are no soulmates. That's not fun. So where were we? So we're talking about stories, fairy tales, romance, soulmates, all these things that aren't, they're neither good nor bad. But okay, so what is the thing about this search for a partner for me is that it has been a hugely important guide for me. It's because I was unhappy that I was alone that I ended up going to a spiritual group that was focused on a couple things like Sufism, psychology, community, and I evolved quite considerably through that. And then it got me into doing Zen Buddhism, which really helped get me grounded. And, some of this stuff in Zen Buddhism where you just have to stare at a wall for 6 hours a day for 7 days. And a part of me was doing that because I thought if I was full, then I would attract the right person. And if I got in the right mindset, I would attract the right person. Also, I just thought I would meet more guys at a Zen center than I would in yoga class, which was true. But I just didn't really know how to kind of make the dating thing happen because I'm not wired that way the way a lot of people are. I kind of wish I had made more male friends and just to let those evolve. I think also, okay, yes, this is a really important point I wanted to make about the fairy tales, is that in fairy tales, you never see the woman pursuing the man. It's always, even really in Frozen, it's always the man. What's wonderful about Frozen is the idea of sisters having true love, and I do feel that with my friends. But it's always the man who pursues the woman. But in life, if you read Make Your Move by John Berger, you see that it's almost always the woman who chooses her mate. Like she goes out and she selects him. And that's something I wish I had learned how to do earlier because it's just changed the entire dating dynamic. It's not about chasing or pursuing or being needy. It's saying like, okay, I want him, and being receptive, giving a smile, and having the confidence that that's somebody that will like you back. Or if he doesn't, you don't care. So that's not really taught. So women will grow up with these romantic fairy tales, and men grow up with basically action hero stories where they perform some noble feat, and then they get or save the damsel in distress. They save the day, they save the world, or they go on some quest for self-realization, like the Little Prince. And then the reward at the end is their sexy babe. And, but it's about saving the world. Whereas in female stories, it's like she's not doing very well, sweeping the floor with her mean stepmother, getting poisoned and killed by the stepmom queen, always a stepmom. And some prince saves her. She loses her mother. And then the stepmother comes in. Dad really isn't doing anything. And then this prince comes and saves her. It's interesting because the loss is of the mother, but the prince is the one who saves her from that sadness, which that's really moving to me because I never thought of the prince. I thought, okay, well, I don't have that prince to replace my dad, but it's quite amazing. Like all these stories seems actually to be alluding that the prince is coming to save a woman who's lost her mother. So that's pretty powerful, to see that is some part of the universal human experience. The dad doesn't figure in at all to that. Wow, I never thought about that until right now. So, and people do save each other, that's also something really lovely in a relationship is it causes you to grow if you might not in your own little way. And so I was having a conversation with a married friend the other day, and I was talking about her relationship, and I said, one of the things I'm most scared of being a single woman is that I'm going to become like really set in my habits. Like like how I like the chairs, the floor, what I dress. Anybody who comes in is going to start to annoy me because I like things just my certain way. And I know, older single women who I think have a little bit of this rigidity. And when my friend stayed with me for a while, I realized I missed some of the kind of control I had over my alone time. And she said, it happens in marriages too. that you get set in your ways like that. And I thought that was so interesting. And then and I do see how couples can get set in their ways, or maybe someone within a relationship can get set in their ways. I do think it's helpful to have people around. But then I was also kind of thinking about how it comes back to that idea of self-reliance versus interconnection. So if I'm reliant only on myself, I become kind of an enclosed vessel. Whereas if I see myself as part of an interdependent, interconnected community world ecosystem, that I'm more malleable. I have a strong center, but I'm adjusting to all these different energies that come in, and not necessarily thinking about what's best for my little bubble, but what's best for everyone, and what's best for everyone is ultimately best for me. Self-reliance versus interconnectedness. Codependency versus interconnectedness. Okay, where does all of this take us? I think that the question underlying this is wanting a partner a bad thing or a good thing? Is it only going to be worth it if I find the most amazing partner ever? You can't actually force that. As much as you try to create the perfect system, there are these magical forces beyond our control. And yet, it's through actions that things happen, through deciding to look at your dark forces and demons and negativity and things not serving you, that you move through and become a better person. I guess what I'm saying here is that, can I really surrender to the idea that if it's the good thing for me to find someone, if I'll find someone, if I'll find the best person, what's preventing me from letting go of controlling that? And also embracing that it is such a positive to have this desire that some might call unhealthy, because if I hadn't had it, I wouldn't necessarily have tried out new things, wouldn't necessarily have motivation to, figure out what I enjoy, like being romantic and sensual, and bring that into my life. I wouldn't necessarily have initiated conversations with friends, because we connect to people through our humanity and our weaknesses. I wouldn't have started this podcast necessarily. So our pain is a teacher, and that's also, I'm worried that maybe I have used this desire to date as my flashlight for so long, that what's going to help me evolve in the future. And I certainly don't want it to be bad things. Like, I don't want it to be health problems. I'm so fortunate there. I'm almost afraid to even put that word out there. Like, I have so much friendship and love and health in my life, and I want to keep growing. And in some ways, we grow through our pain. It's the most powerful teacher. And so if I let go of this pain, am I going to continue to grow? It's really sad to think about. And also, I've been holding on to this for so long, this wish for having a partner. First of all, if I don't, I feel like huge failure. I invested so much work in this. And secondly, a part of me feels like, how could anyone look at me and say that I had this and I didn't figure it out and I failed? What's wrong with me? What are people saying about me? And then also, is this pain some type of old friend that I'm going to miss because wanting a partner has been such a big part of me for so long? So where does this all lead me? There's this part of me that feels like, is letting go of control the thing, or some piece of it, like the analytical part? Or is there also just more of a loosening? And can I even name the thing to let go of? And maybe if I do let go of this insane need to control, then it'll just be obvious and easy. I'll just walk into a cafe and be like, that guy seems nice. And we'll talk. And the next thing you know, we're married. It's like so easy. That's very possible. I worry about letting go of the wrong thing, you know? Like, the analysis is a part of it. The spiritual dimension is a part of it. The romantic dimension is a part of it. The psychological healing is a part of it. What if I let go of their own part? But I think there's something that can be let go of that I cannot name, and the idea that I can't name it, that it's nameless, is frustrating to me. So maybe that's where to start. Mm. All right, I'll end on one thing is that I just, yesterday and today, I was reminded once again of how much extraordinary love I have in my life. My two best friends came over and they did my hair and my makeup, and we made this vegan charcuterie platter because we all really care about animals and the planet and, you know, are well informed about what types of environmental decisions make an impact. We made this beautiful plate together and I got the food and they decorated and make it really nice. I mean, they're both really organized and have a really great sense of design. So we all collaborated on it together and then we all just sat down and enjoy it. And then my friend, the two girls, their sisters, they did my hair and it was so magical for these dear friends I love to be doing my hair. And also it just felt so intimate. I mean, I don't have sisters of my own, and for these loves, I love them so much doing my hair. One of them is a doctor. She was having so much fun. We were teasing her she should become a hairdresser because it's nice doing something that, you know, when you're so used to in that research mode to do hair. But anyway, the point, I felt so nurtured. And then I received a really special gift from their family, which I'll share at the right time. And it was so meaningful. It was related to what's happening to me now. And it's an area that this person has a lot of expertise, magical expertise and wisdom in, that it was really important for him to give to me. And then I received this beautiful message from my assistant about how much she appreciated the way I worked with her and how much I had validated her and how much she loved me. It was so sweet. This is a person who doesn't kind of write these types of long messages a lot. It was so meaningful, you know. And I thought, wow, you receive so much. I mean, never growing up did I think, wow, I hope I have an assistant who writes me a long love letter one day. And yet, I mean, it was marvelous, marvelous. And then this morning I went to this hotel, the Ambassador Hotel. Well, we went last night and it was just so fun and joyful. And then I went today and this little girl walked by me and her mom was having trouble because she wanted to sit on the floor. She had these sparkly butterflies on her pink, soft pink sweatpants, sweatshirt, and she was so cute. Probably around 2 or so, although Croatian kids are really tall. She would have been 1. And she kept sitting on the floor. She was near me, and her mom said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I said, "Oh my gosh, no, I love children. It's so nice for her to be here. There was a baby crawling the other day, and I picked it up." And she said, "Oh, you can pick her up too." And I said, "Are you sure? I mean, this kid and I didn't know me." And so I went over and pick her up, and the little girl immediately zoomed off to her mom's table, and we were both laughing because her mom basically said, "Oh, she'd love it if you picked her up," and that's kind of a great way to get a kid who's running away to go back to their parents is for a stranger to come over and pick them up. But then the little girl got a little warmer to me and she came back and I asked her mom, "Are you sure it's okay to pick her up?" So I just picked her up and oh my gosh, it was so sweet. And she put her little cheek next to mine. And then I kept holding her and I'm kind of walking over to her mom, just making sure she feels safe and okay. So I'm standing in front of her mom holding her and gave her a little kiss. And her mom said, "Oh my gosh, you know, she must love your energy. She doesn't do this with everybody. She must really trust you. You must be a good person." And it was so warm because I think when I first got to Croatia, I felt people were a bit cold. And I don't know, something about how maybe I understand the culture more, or people have gone really friendly to me. So it was so lovely having this mom bring so much warmth to me. And then someone else just randomly said hi, or bye, which is really unheard of for some Croatian stranger. I'm always trying to get people to smile at me. Some people have been really warm and loving. And then this little girl, where she just had her cheek pressed to mine, and then she looked at her mom and said, "Mama," and I just handed her back, and I said, "Good choice, little girl." It was just a sweet moment, and so I feel surrounded by so much love, and it's just such a beautiful quality to have in my life, and I feel really grateful, and I hope love is flowing into your life too, and if not, if you find a way to make space for it and comes to you very soon and really just flows over you. I really, really wish that love for you. And I'm putting that out there. It's so marvelous and it can come in so many different beautiful ways. Have a happy new year, everyone, and thanks for listening.